this business, this sport rather. As a fan at 36, I turned 36 recently, so I'm officially on the road to 40 now. As a fan at my age of 36 in the UK, how can I put this? I'm not trying to sound big-headed when I say I have great pride in the fact that my knowledge of wrestling goes far beyond WWE, AEW, because in the UK, unless you're a diehard, that's all you know.
Yeah.
I try and absorb as much wrestling. For example, I recently purchased a book, which I've just started, about the history of pro wrestling in the Bahamas at Nassau Stadium.
Really?
Ian Douglas wrote this. He was the chap who has contributed to a lot of books. Steve Cairns being one of them. I can't wait to delve into this because all of the greats have competed there. So I can't wait to read this. So it'll be another piece of the puzzle, so to speak, for me.
That's amazing. I want, if you can, and when we're done here, I want DM me that information because I want to on that book because I know the Kern one just recently was released, and I heard him recently on Dave Dynasty's podcast, which was an amazing interview. We were just talking about Brian Ferguson. He's got an amazing podcast as well, Bumps and Thumps.
Indeed,
which is that is now he puts out a weekly podcast, which is available everywhere. I want everybody to go check that out. And he has some really interesting guests. And the fun part about professional wrestling is in podcasts, etc., is hearing everybody's opinions or anybody's version of professional wrestling from where they live. And I believe he lives in the Midwest, if I'm not mistaken. So he's always got something, a lot of guests from his area on there. And that's the thing I loved about professional wrestling. I love the territories and I love the regional stuff. So hearing or being introduced to, sometimes he has indie guys currently from his area on. It's always very interesting to hear stuff, their stories and discovering things. So, I really like that show a lot.
Yeah, I think it's he's almost a credit to his territory, so to speak, as well, because as a wrestling fan who's obsessed with the history of pro wrestling in the States, I've always felt like the Midwest is an underappreciated, overlooked territory. People talk about Florida, the Carolinas, New York, Detroit, with the Sheik in the days of Cobo Hall. But the Midwest, so much has come out of that area, and it's still coming out of that area. And the fans, I remember watching a Mick Foley interview. I say I'm not a big fan of him, but I remember watching an interview saying they hated me as Mankind, but when I'd walk to the ring as Dude Love, they gave me the biggest pops I'd ever received, which is madness when you think about it.
It's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so, it's great. I know recently he had Brett Sawyer on there, who, we lost only a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Which was a shocker because after hearing him talk, he sounded like he was doing well in good health, but it's one of those things, isn't it?
Well, here's a little tidbit. I was a couple months back, we were trying to get hooked up when we were actually sitting in there, and we were having some technical difficulties, and it's unfortunate that an interview never happened, as he was supposed to be a guest on here. And then we were supposed to reschedule and all this other stuff, but I think that there was just a lot of time issues on both parts and to find out he had passed, I was very saddened because I had somewhat kept in touch with him, I should say, on a regular basis and spoke with him. And so the fact that, to hear such sad news suddenly, it was just awful, I gotta tell you. And I felt really bad that I really wish that we could have got that interview done because it would have just been a nice piece. And I don't know how much I probably would have even felt even more awful if we actually had that interview. So, you know what I mean?
Yes, no, it was a huge loss, to, how can I put this? To casual fans, they probably won't know the name of Brett Sawyer.
Yeah.
But having seen a lot of footage of him primarily on YouTube and a couple of old VHS tapes, we've lost another brother of our community, and we're losing too many of them.
It's been a rough couple months. Like, we've been losing people on a somewhat weekly basis, it seems.
It is. It's we're losing too many greats who have impacted the sport worldwide. But their contributions will always do what we can as fans to keep their legacy alive.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a lot of footage of him out there. I was a big fan of his growing up, younger, obviously the younger brother of Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer, who in itself was a legend and died way too young. I'll tell you that much. So
yes, I think Buzz Sawyer is one of the greatest heels of all time.
Yeah.
The heat he drew from the fans was incredible.
Yeah, and don't forget his feud with Tommy Rich was,
of course,
absolutely amazing. And I'm a huge Tommy Rich fan as well. So that match got me real good.
Good.
So I want to thank you for coming on, spending the last hour and change with me. I appreciate you coming on. Why don't you tell our listeners where you can be reached?
Sure. So I am available through the WFIA, so you can reach me via that platform. I do have an email address if you want to be a part of the membership committee, which I've had a lot of ups and downs with this, trying to get this rocking and rolling, stage some meetings. But if you want to get in touch with me, you can do. My details are on the website, but if you want to make a note of them now, it would be Davey, so that's DAVEYLH at hotmail.co.uk. You can hit me up on Facebook, David Harold. You'll see a picture of myself and my wife in the background, so you'll know it's me. Very proud of that picture. And if any British fans are watching this, the For the Love of Wrestling convention takes place over here next March. I will be there with a table promoting the WFIA. If you want to be a part of that in any way, please get in touch. The more we can spread the word, the better. And like I always say in a lot of posts I watch, keep supporting pro wrestling and support the WFIA.
Thank you very much. And don't forget the WFIA.org. Go. All you got to do is enter your email address, click submit. Nothing else. There's no credit cards. There's nothing. You don't have to purchase anything. However, they do have t-shirts and all that other stuff for your purchase. I got mine. I wear mine proudly. I wore mine to the New England Fan Fest to make sure that I told everybody about it. You can do the same. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Dave, thank you so much.
Pleasure is all mine.
Platforms. It's professional wrestling's greatest, largest, privately owned wrestling library. All the classic hits, flips, slams, and pins of yesteryear are on one place. It's Ultimate Classic Wrestling. Check out the Nature Boy Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Mr. USA Tony Atlas, Tito Santana, Rick Martel, a who's who of professional wrestling's greatest spotlight stars ever to grace the squared circle, all in one place. Grab the best seat in the house for memories and mayhem on Ultimate Classic Wrestling.
Hi, this is Bob Smith. You might remember me from my years at Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine. Well, now I've started a brand new podcast called The Outdated Wrestling Hour. Yes, we're going to take a whimsical look back at the wrestling figures, stars, and trends from years gone by. We're talking 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and a whole lot more. There's going to be laughs. There's going to be fun. There's going to be action. You name it. Please tune in.